This is the Arsenal women's team, who are extremely successful and possibly the best women's team in England. And they have been criticised because on the weekend against Bristol City Women's, they beat them 2-1, but in their match photo, there wasn't a single player of colour in their team. It was just 11 white women. And people are upset. To the people that are upset, why? Why are you upset? And Arsenal have come out and said that they're going to, look into this, and why? Like, this is the manager, don't know his name, don't know enough about him, right? But his job is to pick the best 11 footballers in his club every single match day to win a match. If one of those players happens to be of colour, perfect. But he's not there to fill a quota so that some incels on the internet can feel happy. But tell me why this is only in the women's game. Why? You never hear this in the men's. Doesn't matter if it's at grassroots or elite level, you never hear it in the men's. It's always in the women's one where change has to be a thing. And it's ridiculous. And it sends the wrong message.
All right, guys. So we got to talk about a story that highlights yet again another clear double standard in our society when it comes to race, and especially when it comes to this conversation about so-called diversity, equity, and inclusion. Because like I've explained to you guys 1,000 times, diversity, equity, and inclusion is basically a code name for less white. It doesn't actually mean having a diversity of people that are involved or that are part of some project or company or some entity or, whatever, right? That's not what it actually means. It doesn't mean having representatives from across the spectrum in regards to race. No. What it actually means is having less of one race in particular, less white people, and essentially replacing them with others, right? Even if you replace all the white people with just a bunch of people from one race, that is still diversity, right? And as you can see here, this is what Ben Crump is celebrating, right? As he posted a picture on X/Instagram celebrating Delta Airlines recently flying an all-black flight crew. He says, one attendant was so surprised by this feat, something they've all reportedly never witnessed before. They had to capture the moment. We love to see all of this black excellence, right? So me personally, considering the things that we've seen from woke corporate America, the first thing that I would be thinking if I got on this flight is that, well, I hope that none of these people were affirmative action hires, right? Which I'm sure they're not, right? I'm sure they're not. But based off the way woke corporate America markets diversity, equity, and inclusion, this is what they make me think, right? I would be probably pretty nervous before taking off because I don't know if these people have went through all the same trainings and have all the same qualifications as a pilot normally would have, considering how, again, stuff like this oftentimes is a forced virtue signal from the company, right? But again, I shouldn't have to live in a world where I question the credentials of, an all-black crew because I've been told by woke corporate America that we have to have, more black people, so therefore we have to lower the standards for them. I shouldn't have to, right? I shouldn't have to live in that world. But unfortunately, this is the world that we live in, okay? But regardless, my point is that they're celebrating this despite the lack of diversity, right? By definition, this is not what diversity actually should mean, right? But the woke definition of diversity, this is exactly what diversity is, right? No whites, okay? No whites. And I'm going to prove my point because we got to talk about another story that I'm comparing that to, which is this story right here, which is about a women's football team, Arsenal, that has released a statement following backlash for the quote-unquote lack of diversity in their women's team and say that they will work to deliver greater diversity as a priority. So basically, they're going to try to get less qualified women on the team because the team is too white, right? If you look at the team here, this is what people are upset about. They're saying that the team is too white. Therefore, again, they're not diverse enough. But what you have here with Ben Crump is that this guy, who's supposed to be for diversity, equity, and inclusion, is literally celebrating a lack of diversity. And he celebrated as, well, no, this is what diversity is. Again, the double standard here is stunning. So without further ado, let's actually learn a little bit more about what's going on with this Arsenal women's football team and the backlash for the quote-unquote lack of diversity.
Hello again. Now, Arsenal women posted this squad photo this week. What's missing? What do you think? There isn't a single person from a diverse background in the group. Now, the club has acknowledged the lack of diversity in the women's team and vowed to deliver greater diversity as a priority. Now, in a statement, Arsenal said, "We acknowledge our current women's first team squad does not reflect the diversity that exists across the club and the communities we represent. Increasing participation among young women and girls from diverse backgrounds is a key priority for us at academy level, with specific measures in place to improve pathways and accessibility. Across all our teams, including our men's and women's academies, we're proud of our players from diverse backgrounds who've contributed to our history, success and culture. It's a priority for the club to continue to drive greater diversity and inclusion and create a sense of belonging for everyone connected to the club." Well, Arsenal's Jen Beattie is one of the players in this photo, and she told the three players in a podcast that the club recognises the need for more representation in the first team.
I think the club knows that it's not good enough not to have representation at the top level and at first team level. I think the men's team have that. A lot of men's football has that, but in the women's game, it's not good enough, and it's definitely not good enough for us at the minute either. You see the likes of Rach on the side of the Emirates, Anita Asante, top players that have been a huge part of our history of Arsenal. So to not have that at the minute is disappointing, but of course it has to happen at grassroots level. Our academies are definitely making steps towards that in terms of allowing sort of coaches and buses to come from inner city London up to Hertfordshire to allow girls to train as part of the academy to sort of make it more diverse, make it more inclusive and more accessible for everyone. But it has to happen at both levels. I know we've talked a lot about it from ETCs at that level, but representation for me is probably even more important at first team level.
Yeah, I agree with you, because at the end of the day, these kids, you know, if you're a young kid now and you're able to switch on the TV, you're able to, you know, look at magazines and you're able to find information about footballers. So you want to have a role model that looks like you, that you can relate to in some sort of way.
Well, the issue around a lack of diversity continues to be felt right across women's football. According to the PFA, just 9.7% of players in the elite women's game are from diverse ethnic backgrounds. Compare that to 43% of male players in the Premier League. Well, at last year's European Championship, England's settled starting 11 were all white, and only 3 players in the squad were of mixed heritage: Nikita Parris, Jess Carter and Demi Stokes. Serena Wiegmann's squad for this year's World Cup had only 2 ethnically diverse players, Carter and Lauren James. The Chelsea manager, Emma Hayes, has called out the lack of diversity. She says it's a middle-class game.
Amazing. Amazing. So, again, I want you to understand, the women's soccer team is a middle-class game, and they have less diversity. And I'm trying to imagine, I guess, the men's soccer or football game would be a middle-class game as well, too, but yet they have so-called diversity. So, again, I'm trying to figure out what's the difference here. It's not a class thing. What it is the fact that so-called women of color just don't happen to be interested in playing football, right? They're not interested. You can't force them to be interested. You can't take lesser players and put them on the team, even though they're not good enough to be on the team, simply because they're not white, right? I'm not sure that's how it's supposed to work. You should not apologize for taking the best players. And the team itself should not be focused on trying to get a more diverse group of players on the team. Like, these women need to be focused on their jobs, which is winning, right? The girls themselves don't need to be distracted by this woke nonsense, and they need to be focused on what they're being paid to do, which is to win. Doesn't matter the skin color of the person that you're playing next to. Don't matter. Your job is to focus on winning. The management's job of the team is to focus on getting the best players on the team, regardless of skin color. That should be the focus. But no, they're distracted by woke nonsense now, right? They're giving into, oh yeah, we need to have more diversity. We've noticed that we're too white, right? We noticed that we're too white. Again, this is shameful. This is shameful. It really is. Again, in the ideal world, when I see something like this, I should not have any questions in my mind that Delta Airlines hired the best flight crew, right? These are all the best people. Shouldn't have any questions about it. And also in the ideal world, when I see this, I shouldn't have any questions about whether or not these are all the best people. It doesn't matter what the skin color or the makeup is of a company or a team. What you desire in a meritocratic society is for the best people to get the job or to make the team. I don't give a damn if the team is all black, all white. But what we have here is a double standard, particularly in the woke West, where this is celebrated. This is great, even though there's no diversity here, right? This is celebrated as diversity. This right here, though, oh, there's a problem. We got to fix this. There has to be a problem with, because there's no black women or there's no so-called women of color on the team. That means there must be some issue that has to be fixed. We have to now allow women that are not as qualified, that are not as good to be on the team, because we got to make sure that the team photo is not all white. It's just not a good look. But this is a great look, right? This is beautiful. Black excellence. Even though, again, based off how woke America markets, hey, again, I would be a little bit nervous getting on this flight. And again, not my fault. It's the fault of woke corporate America, because again, these people have pushed affirmative action. They pushed lowering standards, which again is what this soccer team is going to have to do. They're going to have to lower standards to get so-called women of color, because it's not like women of color don't want to play at all. I would argue that a lot of them probably don't. They're just not that interested. And you can't make them interested. But the ones that are interested, it's not like they aren't trying. It's not like they're not aware that these women exist. They're just not good enough to be on the team, period. And they shouldn't be on the team. Doesn't matter if the team's all white. Doesn't matter if the team's all black. We never ask this question when it comes to African teams that are all black. We never ask, well, where's the diversity at? Right? Where are the whites? We never ask that question. But we're always asking the question in majority white countries why they don't have a diversity of skin colors and players on the team. We don't even ask that when it comes to the Asian teams, right? In the Asian countries. We don't ask, hey, China, why don't you have more black people on your team? I mean, look at this. Is this diverse, right? Is this diverse right here? I'm just saying, this don't look too diverse to me, right? This don't look too diverse. This don't look too diverse. This don't look, this look like all the same people. But again, you never hear complaints about it. You never hear complaints about the lack of diversity, equity, and inclusion when it comes to any part of the world, when we're talking about sports or corporate, companies or anything like that. You don't hear anything except in the West, where, again, there's always boo-hoo, whine, and complaining about it. Again, it's sick. It really is. It is sick. And the double standard, it's just so in your face. They don't even try to hide it. So anyways, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.